More than 2,000 years ago, the Romans built something so extraordinary that it still astonishes historians today. These were the Nemi Ships, enormous wooden vessels. Unlike anything else from the ancient world, they weren't warships or cargo boats. They were floating palaces, decorated with marble floors, vibrant mosaics, luxurious baths, and even complex plumbing systems. What makes their story even more unbelievable is what happened next. These ships were lost, rediscovered, and then lost all over again, becoming one of history's most baffling archaeological sagas. The first mystery is their location. The ships were found resting at the bottom of Lake Nemi, a small volcanic lake about 19 miles south of Rome. The lake is calm, circular, and surprisingly shallow in places. For centuries, local fishermen knew something large lay beneath the water. Legends say they pulled up fragments using hooks and quietly sold artifacts in nearby markets. In 1446, curiosity finally turned into investigation when noblemen decided to examine the rumors. They confirmed that two massive ships sat about 60 feet below the surface. And once their existence was proven, the questions only multiplied. Lake Nemi is barely over a mile wide and only about 100 feet deep, so why would anyone build gigantic ships there, especially ships of this scale? The answer leads straight to one of Rome's most infamous emperors, Caligula. Caligula is remembered as cruel, unstable, and wildly extravagant. He was known for spending unimaginable sums on festivals, banquets, and personal indulgences. According to legend, he even fed his favorite horse food mixed with gold. Excess was part of his identity. So massive pleasure ships fit his personality perfectly, but the location still seems strange. Historians believe the lake itself held religious importance. It was sacred to Diana, the goddess of the hunt and the moon, whose sanctuary stood on the northern shore in Roman times. The lake was called Speculum Dianae, the mirror of Diana. It's possible Caligula chose the site for its spiritual meaning, using the lake as a secluded retreat for his floating palaces. The first vessel, known as the Prima Nave, stretched about 230 feet long, nearly as long as today's largest passenger aircraft. Its hull was divided into 3 sections, with wide rear structures and narrower forward ones, connected by stairways and corridors. Its layout was unlike anything else from ancient shipbuilding. The second vessel, the second nave, was even larger, measuring roughly 140 feet long and nearly 80 feet wide. It sat farther from shore in deeper water, which helped preserve it better. Although parts of the superstructure were missing when it was discovered, the deck layout clearly showed that large buildings once stood on both ends of the ship. The craftsmanship of these ships was astonishing. Floors were covered in colorful mosaics, walls featured fine marble, and interiors rivaled imperial palaces. They included multiple banks of oars, private bathing rooms, open galleries, dining halls, and even gardens planted with vines and fruit trees. Gardens on ships. These vessels weren't just transportation. They were personal worlds designed to impress and indulge. Accounts suggest Caligula hosted lavish parties on board, where his behavior shocked even Roman standards. The ships became symbols of unchecked power and luxury. Beyond their beauty, the engineering was far ahead of its time. Evidence shows advanced plumbing systems, including bronze pipes and lead drainage technology many believed didn't exist until centuries later. Wooden beams were even coated in lead to protect against shipworms, though ironically, those pests don't survive in fresh water. Some researchers believe one ship may have included a rotating platform, possibly for displaying statues or entertaining guests as they dined while slowly turning across the lake. Despite their brilliance, the ships had short lives. Caligula ruled for only a few years, and soon after his death, the vessels were deliberately damaged, filled with stones, and sunk. Their exact fate remains unclear, but they disappeared beneath the lake for centuries. Attempts to recover them failed until modern times. In 1929, Italy undertook an extraordinary project to drain Lake Nemi itself. Over 60 feet of water was pumped out. Years of excavation followed, and by 1932, the second ship was finally lifted free from the mud. The recovery revealed an incredible treasure trove: massive anchors, bronze ornaments, marble statues, decorative rings, and copper roof tiles. The cost of constructing these ships must have been staggering, even by imperial standards. To celebrate the discovery, Italy built a museum near the lake in 1936 so the public could see the ships. But tragedy struck again in 1944 during World War II. A fire destroyed the museum and the vessels inside. The cause remains uncertain, but the largest ancient ships ever found were reduced to ash. Only a few bronze pieces, charred timbers, and artifacts stored elsewhere survived. Still, The story didn't end there. Reconstructions and restorations allowed parts of the ships to live on. The museum reopened in the 1950s, displaying recovered fragments and detailed models. One mosaic floor panel from the ships even resurfaced decades later in an unexpected place, serving as a coffee table in a New York apartment for over 50 years before its true origin was discovered. With so many twists, losses, and rediscoveries, it's possible that pieces of these floating palaces are still hidden somewhere in the world, waiting to be recognized. That's the story of the Nemi Ships, ancient marvels that rose, vanished, returned, and vanished once more. If this story sparked your curiosity, make sure to like the video and share it with your friends.